Next would be Erin, Ivana, and Luhtea. Please.
Yes, Pak. I will share the screen first.
Okay.
Okay, our group ideas is uh, it's like uh, our idea is
Mm-hmm.
selling product and giving service. It's
Mm-hmm.
about it's like we inspired by application Halodoc.
Okay.
Uh, Halodoc is a sell
Yeah.
some
Yeah, I know.
medication.
I know. How to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Continue.
uh, but we um, make the product is like vegetable and fruit from fresh from the farmer. So we sell product uh, and we giving service uh, by take the product from supplier, which is the farmer, and then delivery to customer, and we connect to express expeditions and also deliveries like Grabs and Gojek.
Okay.
So the customer make a pre-order to order the product. And
Okay.
for the revenue, we can increase the product price and we get the payment of our service.
Okay. Okay. Good. Are you familiar with an application called Tani Hub?
No, no,
Okay,
sir.
because what you described just now is exactly what Tani Hub did. Oh, sorry, do because they sell fresh fruits, like farm products, groceries like rices, sticky rice, spices, beef, chicken, eggs, things like that. Similar. The difference is they have their own delivery system. So they don't use uh, Grab or Gojek, but they use their own delivery person. Okay. And it's similar. You need to uh, order the products 1 day before the delivery, similar to that. Okay, but I can see the. So look, I will not ask you to change, okay, because it's actually a good idea. It's just whenever you want to build something like system, apart from revenue question, people will also compare it to the existing one, like Tani Hub, for example. I understand that you have your idea from Haludoc, and that you want to apply that to uh, fresh produce. That's fine. That's not a problem in this class. But you need to be aware that there are other applications there outside. Okay. I actually will discuss that with our lecture topic today. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, now last but not least, Francisco and Hugo.
Yes. So me and Hugo will taking SID about inventory information management
Okay.
system that we're going to make. So the inventory information system that we're gonna make is a system to determine stock inventory in the warehouse of a
Mhm.
company. So
What?
we
Sorry,
will
I have to interrupt. What kind of company? Because different company have different inventory system.
uh, maybe like
No, you cannot use maybe. You have to be definite. I mean, look, a manufacturing company will have different inventory system compared to a supermarket, for example. Okay, pharmacy will have different inventory system compared to restaurant, things like that. Okay, so you need to be specific. Like the other two groups, they are quite specific about what they want to build. Okay.
okay.
Okay, if you are not specific yet, that's fine. But you later you need to be specific.
Okay.
Okay. So continue.
Will we not yet determine the company yet, but the system that we're going to make will helping customer to manage their inventory. That
Okay.
is the main purpose of the application.
Okay. When you said manage inventory, what do you mean?
So we collect data about the incoming goods, the goods that out, inventory taking. So we also forecasting for the purchase of goods in the next month. So
Okay.
like
That's
that.
interesting. Yeah. I know. That's actually a good feature of any inventory system, which is estimating or predicting uh, the inventory requirement for the future. That's good. And your planning horizon, I mean the the inventory rate that you want to suggest to your customer is for the next month. So only for a month, or do you want to do the whole year?
Maybe for a month, maybe.
Okay. See, this is where this is why I need you to be very specific because, like I said, some products have different timing. If you look at the business, obviously, fast-moving consumer goods like instant noodles, bread, juice, drinks, they are moving in a fast pace. So it's different from car companies, for example. Therefore, uh, making prediction or forecasting about inventory requirement will have different style. For fast-moving good, you might be able to, it's sufficient to have inventory forecast for the next month. But for company that depend on import, for example, you have to forecast at least 3 months in advance because you need to order the product from the overseas supplier and waiting for the delivery, which may take weeks. Okay, so that's why I need you to be very specific about the uh, type of company. Okay, not so much about the company itself, but what kind of inventory you want to handle. Is it inventory for a manufacturing company? If it's manufacturing, what kind of product you want to this company build? Or is it for a supermarket, restaurant, or anything else? Okay, so you and Hugo need to discuss this and come up with a definitive answer before our next lecture. Okay?
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
sir.
Good. Good. I'm glad that you have the test. Okay. I promise you that I will use some example from my previous project. So today I will show you this. Let me open the document first. So this is the documents that I get when I work as consultant for the redesign of information system for PNPM Mandiri Perdesaan. Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay, can you see this? My Word documents.
Yes, Pak.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
Okay, good. So this is the executive summary of the final report. So at the beginning, this is in Indonesian language, although I can't find the English version of this because the report was, although the project was sponsored by the Australian government, but the report was intended for Indonesian government, so it's in Indonesian. So this is the introduction, explaining about the problem. You need to have this later on when you create your report. Okay, so this is the reason about why they need to develop a new information system. Okay, so this is the situation analysis. This is the current reporting at that time, then the current reporting process, and also how they would improve the system. Okay, so this is the new architecture letter that they will have developed. Okay, and this is a various old system that will be replaced. Like they have Proton, like I said, they use Microsoft Access. They have a lot of small application. Okay, they have product profile disbursement for recording the flow of the money, complaint and handling resolution. The problem with this small application is they are not integrated. So, for example, there's a problem with disbursement, and there is a complaint from the citizen. It's very hard to link disbursement and complaint, okay? Or which disbursement is for capacity building, the human resource thing like that. So it's a nightmare to integrate all this. In fact, I remember there is one meeting with the parliament, DPR, where one of the member of the parliament accused the Minister of Home Affairs at the time, Pak Gamawan Fauzi, as a liar, because the report delivered to the parliament was full of mistakes and also full of impossible data, not wrong data, not falsified data, but impossible data. For example, there is one item in the reporting. It reported about the project to build a new road for a village. The unit measurement for road usually kilometers, the width of the road and also the length of the road, like how many meters, how many kilometers, things like that. But inside the report, the unit measurement for road being built was kilogram. Probably that's just a typo. But if you deal with parliament and high people in the high position, that kind of mistake is a fatal mistake. Okay, so that at that time, one of the member of the parliament stand up and point a finger to the Ministry of Affairs and said loudly, angrily, said, "Sir, you are a liar." So yeah, that's all hell break loose, and then that's why the Ministry of Home Affairs then asked the Australian government to build the new system. Okay. So this is all the problems, this is the process that I told you. From the village level, they will propose activities, building roads, having training or something like that. And then in the sub-district, kecamatan, they will discuss this and set priority, and then they will send it to regency, to the province, and then to the central government. For then it will be financed. So these are the problems that I will not cover the policy problem. I will cover the information system problem. So these are a few problems with the existing system at that time. Input data has different format from the actual data being requested by the central government. Okay, so a lot of people in the sub-district, regency, and province have to be creative with the data. And creative means sometimes they have to manipulate the data. Okay, lack of security, no financial reporting system, things like that. Coordination between all the elements of the programs, the human resource problem, environment problem. So this is in 2013, 2012, 2013, 2014. Sure, people have mobile phone. People have, at that time, BlackBerry already become popular devices in Indonesia. Android also become gaining popularity. iPhone also, but a lot of area in Indonesia at that time didn't have cellular coverage. There was a report from the team that being sent for survey in the jungle of Kalimantan. Whenever they want to send a text message, they have to type they have to type the message first, and then click the send button, and then put the phone on a bird cage, and then they will hoist the bird cage into the highest tree at that place. And then they will wait for like 10-15 minutes, and then they will hoist down the bird cage and open the mobile phone. The top of the tree is the place where they can get cellular signal. So that's kind of problem. Okay. So this is just this is the proposed process on how they will integrate the system, starting from the village and then to sub-district, regency, province, and then government, central government. Okay, so this is the system that they will fix. They also have a geographical information system, because there are a lot of problems with the exact location of the project. They will also remember it. This year, they don't yet have Google Maps. They don't yet have Waze, so it's very rudimentary. Okay. So that's the example. I'll use another example later on when we discuss about various things. Okay. Also, I will show you example of progress report. How to report progress of a project in this kind of system. Okay. Let's start with our topic today, which is the source of software. Can you see this? My PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, when we discuss about how to develop an information system, software is a important part of this equation. Okay. In the old days, whenever you need something, software, you need to build it yourself. Okay. Or you have somebody that can build it for you. But nowadays, there are plenty of variation on the sources of software. Okay, so in this topic today, I'll introduce you to various sources of software and also how to evaluate different sources, because sometimes for the same software you will face different sources and you need to pick one. Okay, so how? Okay, let's start with the first one. This is outsourcing. Outsourcing means for the software that you need, you ask somebody else to develop or build it for you. Okay, so it's just like building a house. You may be able to build your own house, but most of the time, because we are not civil engineers, we will ask somebody else to build a house for us. Okay, so what's the definition of outsourcing? Outsourcing is turning over responsibility of some or all of an organization information system, application operation to an outside firm. So outsourcing is not new. The trend of outsourcing was started by Kodak in 1970s. When Kodak sell all of their information system department and also all of their IT asset to IBM. And then in turn, Kodak will rent computers from IBM and also asking IBM to manage their IT operation. So if they need application, they need system, they will ask IBM, please build us one. They need computer, they will ask IBM. They need support, they will ask IBM. Okay. Why? Okay, but before why, this is some examples. Okay. IT outsourcing is a quite different from ordinary outsourcing. If you remember, many times you probably see on the news, that a lot of people, a lot of workers have a rally against outsourcing. Usually they came from people who work in blue-collar jobs like cleaning service, security, factory workers, things like that. But it's very rare, and I think it's almost impossible that IT people will go with the rally and protest for outsourcing. Why? Because outsourcing in IT is a lucrative business, worth billions and billions, probably even trillions of dollars. And a lot of IT professional was paid handsomely because of. In fact, in 2012, when I was a project manager, it was very hard to find a good programmer. Why? Because all the good programmers in Jogja and Central Java, they didn't want to be an employee of a company. They want to be a freelancer software developer, freelancer programmer. Why? Because it's paid better than become an employee. Okay. For one project, for one small database project, they can be paid 30 million for a month work. I knew what the view of their programmers that they can bought at that time the highest spec of MacBook Pro with ease, because they were paid handsomely. Okay, anyway, why companies want outsource? The first reason is economical cost reason. Kodak outsourced their IT function to IBM because Kodak want to save money. And Kodak was a company that their core business is not IT. Kodak core business is photography, imaging, and all the related products. Film, camera, scanner, printer, perhaps, things like that. So they don't want to do anything with IT. Okay. And also take advantage of economics of scale. For example, if you look at the Microsoft Office, for example, how much it costs Microsoft? if I'm not mistaken, the cost to subscribe to Microsoft Office is about $1 million a year for one person. That's very cheap. Microsoft spent hundreds of millions of dollars to develop Microsoft Office with thousands of programmers, and a lot of them had PhD in software engineering. So it's very cheap to have that kind of product with just 1 million a year. That's economies of scale. If you build Microsoft Office yourself, probably take forever to finish and probably will cost us more than just buying it. Okay, free up internal resources because, like Kodak case, IT is not their core business, so they can allocate their resources for their core business, which is imaging. Reduce time to market because they can now focusing more on their core products. They can go to the market now. Increase process efficiency. Basically, this is on the and system development is not core activity for organization. Company like Odax, they are not IT company. It's different from Google, Microsoft, which is IT company. Okay. So that's outsourcing. Let me show you this. Okay, so this is Infosys. Infosys is one of the biggest outsourcing supplier in the world. Like they said, they can. So this is their This is their project. They help Daimler, the production of Mercedes-Benz, for digitalizing automotive sectors. Okay, they help Pfizer. They help governments in many places in the world, including Australian government. Digital transformation. Okay. Talent transformation. They have a lot of products that can be sold to companies. Okay. This one also, this is the local outsourcing companies. They help government and also telecommunication company. Datacom is the company that actually develops system for the ministry. Oh, the one that I told you about my project. So this is the developer for them. So I worked with them in the past. They work for telco company like Indosat and Telkomsel. Every time Indosat bought a new network equipment, they ask Datacom to test that equipment. Telkomsel use Datacom for security, things like that. Okay, so this is a local company. Okay, and that's huge business. Many money was spent for outsourcing. Okay, that's why it's a lucrative business and it's have a lot of potential. Okay, that's the reason. Now the sources of software. First, the IT firm like Infosys or Datacom. You can have packaged software producers, enterprise-wide solution, application service provider. We will discuss this later. Open source software and in-house development. Okay, so these are the sources of software in short. So IT firm company, I already gave you examples like Infosys and Datacom. Okay, Telkom. They also have a subsidiary that providing outsourcing service. It's called Sigma. Okay, things like that. Next, package software producer. So you buy software and then you use it. Okay, it's sometimes called the commercial off the shelf. It's just like when you shop in supermarket or mini market, you just grab the product that you want, go to the cashier, wait for the product, and then you can go home with the product. Okay, let me show you the example. This. So this is Bhinneka. Bhinneka sold a lot of software What do you want? You want Trend Micro antivirus, Veritas email management, Autodesk for InfraWorks, for design, IBM DataCap, VMware, SAS. This is statistical software, very powerful. Use, like you may see, the cost is more than $250 million of rupiah. This is a software that being used by Indonesia Statistic Bureau, the government, BPS. Visio, you're already familiar, Microsoft, SQL Server, various antivirus, Adobe Captivate, Microsoft again, Acronis for backup, Autodesk, plenty of all. So this is similar to supermarket. You just grab one, pay that software, and download it. That's it. You can use that software. Okay. So, and it's ranging from a small computer, laptop, desktop, even your mobile phone, your tablet, up to the big software that being used by big institution like BPS, SAS software, things like that. So, package software producer, this is old data, but it's still stay the same. IBM, Microsoft. Like you see, Microsoft is one of the biggest software seller in the world. Okay, prepackaged software. Enterprise software, this is a software that being used by a large company that has a lot of division and subsidiaries. One of the, you probably remember this from MIS, one of the biggest name in this is SAP, and being used by a large enterprise like Telkom, Pertamina, Astra, and other large company. Okay, before. Now, with the package software or with the commercial of the software, you need to be aware of licenses. With software, it's different from, say, when you buy a motorcycle. When you buy a motorcycle, once you pay that motorcycle, you can do whatever you want with that motorcycles. You can use it on your own. You can rent that motorcycle to somebody else. You can resell that motorcycle. You can even destroy and burn that motorcycle. It's up to you. You can give that motorcycle to somebody else, or if somebody else borrow your motorcycle and use it for a long time, that's also fine. Okay, doesn't matter. With software, not that easy. Software has contractual things called license, and you need to pay attention to license carefully. So whenever you install a software, before you start the installation process, there will be a lot of documents called the end user license agreement. I believe most of the time, we, including me, will just skip that and click accept. Yes, okay, continue or whatever. Okay, without really read the license. In early 2000s, Microsoft working with Indonesian government actually cracking down on software piracy. Okay. So they have raid computers rentals, internet cafe, things like that. And one internet cafe in particular was having legal problem. So that internet cafe being fined by the government because they use they use Microsoft product, Microsoft Windows. And although that software, the Microsoft Windows, has a license, it's not a pirated, but that's not the right license. See, if you buy a computer and there is a pre-installed Microsoft Windows with that computer, the license for that Windows is for personal use. It's not for business use. So renting that computer will violate that license. It's similar to if you download free software that provided by Microsoft for Atmajaya, and you use it for any other academic, if you share that software to your family or your friend, which that who is not students or staff in Atmajaya, then you violate the license. Okay, it's unlike a motorcycle that once you buy it, you can rent or lend that motorcycle to anybody that you like. This is not the case. So if you want to have internet cafe with Microsoft Windows, you have to buy special license for that. Okay. And also license have two different type based on the length. One, there is a perpetual license, which is once you buy that, you don't need to pay anything. Okay, you can use that software as long as you like, as many times as you like. Okay. I have that. I have one software like that. It's called NVivo version 10. It was released almost 10 years ago, I think, and I still can use it legally. However, with perpetual license, you will not get any new version. So currently, I think NVivo has the latest version is version 12. I still use version 10. Okay, so that's the next license is annual license. You have to pay per year. SIS that you saw earlier in Bhinneka website, it has annual license, 250 million per year. That's for one version. If you pick you want to buy the bigger license, like the one that used by PPS, then that's another story. Okay. So you have to pay annual license, and it's just like antivirus that paid that. So as long as you pay the license, you can use it. The advantage of this kind of license is usually you will get new version, and also you will get support. With my NVivo version 10, if I have problem with that, good luck with that, because the producer stopped supporting that product years ago. Okay. So that's the license, and also there are licenses that limiting the number of people that can use the software. Okay. And most of the time, the license will not allow the owner of the customer to transfer that license to other person. So you cannot lend that Microsoft Windows to your family or friend, unlike motorcycles again. Okay. So you need to be careful with that. Okay, let's continue. Okay. So the next part is cloud computing. This is the latest trend in the sources of software, which is cloud computing. So instead of you install anything into your laptop or your desktop or your mobile phone or your tablet, you just go to some internet places and then log in and use that application. Instagram, Facebook, Gmail, Microsoft Office 365, Google Office is this just like this. And let me ask you this: have you ever bought a computer and install it with everything, the software that you need on your own? Okay. How long will it take? So probably 2, 3, or even typically my setup will. I need to spend a whole day to set up my new computers with everything that I need. That's just one computer. Imagine if a company have thousands of computers. How many days that will be spent just to set up that new computers? That's why for a lot of organization using cloud computing is just like outsourcing. Okay, I actually have research that investigating schools' use of Google Meet and Google Classroom. Okay. So many high schools in Indonesia depend on Google Classroom. If you look at Google Classroom, it's actually similar to what we have Kuliah site. However, with Google Classroom, the schools don't need to install application like Kuliah site. They don't need to do any maintenance. Google will do that for them. And they don't need to install anything. Just open the browser, even with mobile phone, you can do that. Go to Google Classroom, log in, and that's it. You get everything that you need. Okay. If you ever install and set up computers, then you know how relief that is. When I was a head of computer labs in our faculty, every time the faculty bought new computers, I have to set it up. And once they replace all the computers in the lab, which is about 200 units, and it was nightmare. I spent 3 days just to set it up. Okay. 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 So that's cloud computing, and the trend now is heading to cloud computing. Everything goes to the cloud. Okay, it's outsourcing second edition, but instead of we bought the software or somebody else installed it on our computers, we just go to the internet, log in, and that's it. We can use it everywhere, anytime, as long as you have internet connection. Open source software. So many years ago, companies, like I said before about license, companies charge exorbitant amount of money to their client, to their customer, to use the software. So one software engineer called Richard Stallman, he didn't think that that was a good idea. So Richard Stallman started a movement. It's called the free and open source software. So Stallman believed that software should be free. Okay, so you can get the software with minimum cost, just the cost of connecting to the internet and download it, or the cost of buying a flash drive and copy it. That's it. You don't need to pay $1 million a year just to use Microsoft Office, for example. Okay, so how do the programmers get the money if they give the software for free? So Stallman said, with support. Most of the time, a lot of with complicated software, we need support. We need training. We need probably to modify software. We need probably to customize software. We probably need something else, installing the software even. So that's when a programmer can be paid. You want to modify the software? Fine, you can do it for a fee. Okay. So that's it. And not only open source is free, but it's also they provide the source code. You can see the source code, you can modify the source code, you can modify the software. And with open source license, once you modify the software, the modification should be available to the general public, which is when you use open source software and you modify it, open source license automatically applied to your software. The example is Linux. Linux is an open source software, and it's open source. So there are a lot of flavor of Linux like Ubuntu, Debian, Red Hat, Slackware, things like that. Those are also open source. And also another open source is a very popular Linux distribution called Android. So Android basically a mobile version of Linux. Google modified. That's why Android is available as open source. In China, there are plenty of knockoff, no names mobile phone that very similar to popular mobile phone, and they were installed with Android, but they don't have few softwares that typically exist in Android phone. Why? Because this is how Google get money from Android. They release Android as an open source, and where Google get their money, every time producers like Samsung, LG, Sony, Xiaomi release Android phone, they have to pay for having Google application installed. What kind of Google? Google Search, Gmail, Google Play Store, okay, things like that. So if you want to have application that run under Android, you need to install it through Google Play Store. And if you want to have that Google Play Store in your mobile phone, you have to pay for Google. But if you don't need that, you can install it yourself. But you don't have Google support. So Google actually implementing Richard Stallman principle in a large scale. Okay, see how many millions Samsung mobile phone being produced every year, and that many times the fee for Google. Okay. Okay. Open source. There are plenty of open source, and a lot of them can replace commercial software. Firefox, you probably Android. If you just need ordinary Office, you don't need Microsoft. You can use LibreOffice, which is also free. Although if you need some complicated and advanced feature of Office, it probably unavailable in LibreOffice, or if it's available, it's inferior compared to Microsoft Office. Next is in-house development. So if you need a software or system and nobody else built it, or it's very, very important to your company, it's company secret, or it's confidential, then you can build in-house. Okay. Like the case with Huawei, when Huawei got banned from the business relation with the US based companies like Android, then Huawei stopped using Android and start using their own information system, which is Harmony operating system for their mobile phone. Okay. Although Harmony based on Android, okay, but they develop it in-house. Okay, so these are the source of software. Now, how to select? First, obviously, cost. Always select the lowest cost. However, the lowest cost is not cost of purchase. The lowest cost means cost of the total cost of ownership. You probably, with open source, you probably get the software free, but you need to set a time to learn how to use that software. You need to allow some time to have mistake because you're learning a new software. Okay, so you need to incorporate that into the cost. Okay, functionality. Okay, you need to purchase the software that will have functionality you need. Okay, if the functionality is just for typing document, then probably LibreOffice will be fine. But if you need advanced document formatting, probably Microsoft Word is better. Okay, vendor support. Do they have support for that? With open source, the support is community, and sometimes community is just because they don't have the expertise, they cannot support you. But with Microsoft, for example, they have training materials, they have certification, they have training centers, they have documentation complete. Okay. The viability of vendor, are they reputable? Or if we buy from them today, tomorrow they will close down or bankrupt, things like that. Flexibility, how easy to customize the software. Okay, documentation again to learn the new software. Response time. How long it takes for the software to respond to users, how fast the software works, and also ease of installation. Most of Windows and Android or iOS application is easy to install, but for large enterprise software, the procedure is much more complicated, especially if later we will discuss this, the distributed system that spread across the geographical area. Just imagine how Facebook installed their system, how Google installed their system. It's not as easy as just double click the installer application. Okay. How to validate purchase software information? We need to collect information. Nowadays, collecting software information is not complicated. Internet will help us. Sometimes some software company will provide us with a trial version. Okay. They'll provide documentation. We can ask people who already use that software, things like that. Now, the process of buying a software, usually because software is usually quite expensive and there are plenty of alternatives, then we need to have a tender. So with tender, we create a request for proposals. We send this request. So in the request for proposal, we specify what kind of software we need, at how much price point, maximum or range of price point that we would like. And then we send this to a potential vendor. Okay. And then potential vendor will send their proposal or quotes. And then we select the best offer. Okay. So vendor proposals, if we have a trial version, we can test the trial version, feedback from other vendors or from other users, report on independent software testing, article in trade publication, things like that. Okay, so based on that, we select all the candidates that can fulfill our needs and then see the price. Okay. That's for the source of software. Any question? Anything you want to clarify? Okay, good. Now, assignment. Okay. So you need to see with your proposed system, you propose to build your system, right? You propose to develop your system instead of asking somebody else to build it for you, outsourcing, or buying prepackaged software, right? So now, with your proposed system, okay, please justify the need to build the system rather than outsource or bought the system, the prepackaged software. Okay, so you need to provide a justification using the material that I already gave to you today, the slides. Okay, so you need to justify why do you think it's best to build the system rather than buying or have somebody else to develop it for you. Is that clear? Okay, good. You need to submit it by next week, okay, before our next lecture. And as usual, I need you to present your finding. Okay, you don't need to submit any PowerPoint, just prepare to explain your answer. Okay, any question? No? Okay, if that's the case, that's it for today. If you have any question about your assignment, please do not hesitate to let me know. I'll answer your question as soon as possible. Okay, so see you next week.